Now, the mother of a teenager with ME from Weston-super-Mare says her daughter's life has been transformed thanks to a robot which goes to school for her.
Yes, Makayla Nunn's 14-year-old daughter Makayla suffers a rare condition which often leaves her completely exhausted and unable to attend class.
But thanks to a Norwegian telepresence robot, she can now watch lessons from her bedroom and even ask questions. And as Max Walsh now reports, it's not just her grades which have benefited.
Be quite important in the next couple of chapters. Liam?
The dog.
The weekend is in sight for these Year 9 English students. Only one more chapter on Of Mice and Men, then home time. But at the front of class is a new student who's desperate to learn.
Makayla, then, can you tell me who is Curly's dad?
The boss.
Brilliant, well done, perfect.
This is Robbie, a robot from Norway who's controlled by Makayla from the safety of her home. She goes to class virtually through her iPad and can even ask questions. What did you first think when you saw the robot?
It was a bit weird. Didn't quite get it.
And what do you think now?
It's good.
Makayla is in many ways your typical teenager, not showing too much enthusiasm. Yet as a young girl, she was an all-rounder, winning ballet competitions and swimming races. But at the age of 7, she became seriously unwell.
Be a few weeks where she wasn't right, and then we'd get over it, and then a couple of weeks later she was down again. This went on for a good 6 to 8 months, and then in October 2011 she went out for the day and came home, and that was the day that our lives changed. We thought she had sunstroke, or so we just left her for a few weeks, then went to the doctors, and it was a virus, it was infection, a virus, and we asked for tests for glandular fever, and everything came back negative as it would for the ME diagnosis.
ME is a hidden illness, one that affects the nervous and immune systems, causing severe fatigue and exhaustion. There's still no cure.
It was a horrendous shock to us. I'd read little bits about ME and knew how debilitating it was. And then it was just trying to get everyone around us to also understand it and not push Makayla, because we were thinking the more she does, the better she'll be. But unfortunately, that was extremely dangerous.
At one stage, Makayla's symptoms were so severe, it was feared she would have to be fed through a tube. But she recovered enough to attend just under half her classes. Then earlier this year, a lifeline, the chance to trial what's known as a telepresence robot. The results have been so successful, the school is now helping to cover the costs.
Academically, the first assessment she did for me this year, she was getting about 60%. The last assessment she did, so this is after having Robbie for, 4 months, she was upwards of 90%. So academically, it proves, doesn't it, it's worth. But also, like I said, in herself, she sort of bounces into the classroom now. She wants to talk to the other students, and she'll even chance her arm with answers that she doesn't know if they're completely correct. She'll still give it a go. She's not as self-conscious, and she's just a happier young lady.
And while she may be happier, like any new gadget in school, she's now the centre of attention.
It's quite fascinating because it talks, and yes, quite cool.
Is it quite strange when the robot answers questions in class?
Not really. It's just like another pupil, really.
First it was different because we haven't had it before, but after a couple of lessons we got used to it.
Makayla's attendance has doubled thanks to Robbie, and now getting her GCSEs is a realistic goal in 2 years' time. But more importantly, she wants this new technology to provide hope for other youngsters unable to get to school. Max Walsh, ITV News, Weston-super-Mare.
More than 100 people with ME have staged a demonstration in Bristol demanding better recognition and research into the condition, also known as chronic fatigue syndrome. The Bristol event is part of the global Millions Missing campaign, highlighting all ME sufferers missing from their own lives. Karen Bell reports.
Rows of shoes representing the ME sufferers who couldn't make it to Queen Square today. Around 250,000 people in the UK have ME, and its effects can be devastating. Alexandra worked full-time as an actress until she developed the illness 11 years ago. Now she hasn't the energy to climb stairs.
At the one end of my dining room I have a hospital bed, and right next to my dining table I have my commode. So it's really pleasant. So that's where I live practically all the time.
There's huge debate about whether ME has a physical or psychological cause. The NHS offers patients psychological therapy, and that is highly controversial.
For somebody, with mental health issues, it's a fabulous idea. But for somebody with ME, you can't change your thought processing because your body literally doesn't function. And because your body doesn't function, it doesn't matter what you think.
These campaigners want to see research redirected into finding a biological cause of ME.
The only treatments available currently under the NHS are behavioural interventions which don't treat the underlying illness cause. So we say this is not good enough, and we want to have more biological research and more targeted treatments to the underlying illness condition.
The Department of Health says that over the past 6 years it's invested over £3 million in research to improve understanding of ME and to look at new approaches to treatment. In the meantime, thousands of lives are on hold. Karen Bell, ITV News, Bristol.